Hi there, folks. This is Adam with the newly renamed 8 Badge Gaming, coming today with the deck tech that topped the charts of our recent poll, which would be the Zoroark Exeggutor deck. So this is a deck running Zoroark GX as well as the Alolan Exeggutor, and we're going to go ahead and just dive straight into the deck tech and discuss the cards themselves. Now, as most decks that are running Zoroarks, we're running a 4 of line for 4/4 Zoroark. Now, the Zoroark GX is the primary use of this card there right now, and that's for the tradability and its Riotous Beating. It is a 210 HP stage 1, and while it is weak to fighting, and with fighting being rather common overall right now, it's still a very playable card because of its tradability, which is once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. And you can do this for each Zoroark GX that you have in play and just get some straight raw card advantage. Its attack is nothing to be scoffed at either. For just a single double colorless attachment, we're hitting for 20 damage times the number of Pokemon you have in play. So if you have a full bench, you're hitting for 120, 150 with a choice band against various EXs and GXs in the format. While you're not usually taking a one-shot, this is going to two-shot most of the things that are currently in the format, so it's still going to be a strong attacker, even if the weakness can make it a little hard to play given the meta in your current area. Now next up, we're running a 3/1/2 line of the Executes Alolan Exeggutor GX and Alolan Exeggutor. Now, the executes themselves, we're currently using the one from Crimson Invasion, and that's because it's technically the best in slot and standard right now because of its hypnosis attack. Being able to just attach an energy, put your opponent's Pokemon to sleep, and hope for some coin flips in your favor, you'll just be able to get your opponent's active Pokemon locked into place while giving you the chance to have a few additional turns for setup or getting ready, or even just, I guess I should say, one extra turn to be able to attack sometimes. Now, as mentioned, we are running a 1 of Alolan Exeggutor GX, which is a 220 HP stage 1. It's Dragon type, meaning that its weakness is only Fairy, and right now, with Gardevoir significantly on the downturn, with much stronger decks in the format, we're not really looking at its weakness being very applicable. Now, its attacks include Tropical Head, which is a single grass energy, and it does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to this Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you're able to load this up with multiple energies, this can hit for a significant amount of damage anywhere on your opponent's side, active or bench, because it can hit benched Pokemon as well. Now, its Dragon Hammer attack, which is a grass and 3 colorless, or essentially 3 energy of any type, hits for 120, and it makes your opponent's active Pokemon confused. I know that there were particular cases when this deck was on stream during the regionals in Madison, where that confusion was able to help them take the game. Again, it revolves around having a bit of luck and your opponent failing their coin toss, but being able to potentially shut down an opponent's attack or make them wary of attacking because they don't want to have that potential confusion damage or loss of an attack straight up can be a very effective attack overall on our side. Now we also have the Tower Go Round GX, which is going to be a grass and 3 energy of any type, and it's going to hit for 180, and it gives you the ability to move any number of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon in any way you like. So say for example, if the Alolan Exeggutor GX is nearly dead, you have the ability to go Tower Go Round, hit for 180, and then redistribute the energy to other Pokemon on your bench. So that does give you the ability then to change up the energy compositions that you have set up, but also conserve the energy that is on the Alolan Exeggutor by sending it off to another Pokemon, so it's not getting lost overall in the exchange. Now, as mentioned, we are also running 2 of regular Alolan Exeggutor. Now, we're using the version that was printed in Forbidden Light, and that's because it's 160 HP stage 1. That's not an EX or GX, so bonus damage from things like Choice Band aren't going to be applicable to it. Its weakness is Fire, which isn't being terribly played right now in the meta, and its Tropical Shake attack is the primary use of it in this deck. Now, Tropical Shake is a single grass energy, and it deals 20 damage. But this attack does 20 more damage for each type of basic energy in your discard, but it's a maximum of 100 extra damage. So if you have the proper setup, this can be a 1 energy attachment hit for 120 on a Pokemon that requires generally at least a 2-shot from your opponent's side. Depending on what they're using to attack you back, it could be a 3-shot or higher. whereas the Exeggutor itself is usually looking to two-shot most of the things in the format. And when you're using a one-prize attacker to do a trade war off against a two-prize attacker, you're generally going to be coming out ahead. Now, next up, we are running a 1 of Kartana GX, where we are running a 1 of Metal Energy in the deck. The ability to actually do a Blade GX is going to be applicable, but we're also looking to use this for the Slice Off ability. Right now, there's a lot of special energy going around in the format, between things like Strong Energy, Double Colorless, and even Beast Energy as a recent addition. Slice Off being able to just knock an energy straight off of a Pokemon, just with its Come into Bench effect, is going to be a very strong effect for you overall. Now next we're running a 1 of Mew EX. Now this is a concession to the Buzzwole meta. Mew EX with its versatile ability can copy the attack of any Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, but you do need to be able to have the necessary energy on Mew to do that attack. Now generally with a Zoroark deck, we're looking to attach a Double Colorless to Mew and have it copy the Riotous Beating attack from the Zoroark itself. Now this will allow you, with at least, say, 4 other benched Pokemon in play, to hit a Buzzwole for 200 damage, hitting for a one-shot KO. Now there are random other Psychic weak Pokemon where Mew is also applicable, such as Necrozma GX, the regular version, not Ultra Necrozma, as well as, say, Lucario, which is still seeing some play. Now, with this deck, where we're also running a variety of miscellaneous basic energy, usually as one-offs, there's going to be random chances where the versatile ability on Mew will let us copy random attacks off our opponent, and will let us use them as well. Say, for example, if we toss one of the 1 of Fighting Energy on the deck on the Mew, we could then attach any other energy to copy a Dangerous Rogue GX, for example, from a Lycanroc. We could copy just about any attack that we could see that would have, at most, usually a 1 energy requirement, while still allowing you to continue attacking through just about anything that might be in play. Now, there are going to be a lot of games where if there's no Psychic weak Pokemon on our opponent's side, that we're just going to trade a Mew away, but it's going to be a great utility card, and sometimes it's just going to straight up win us our games. Now, next up, we're running a 2 of Tapu Lele GX, and you all know and love Tapu Lele. Its Wonder Tag ability is going to let you lay a Tapu Lele from your hand to bench to tutor up any supporter out of your deck and put it in your hand. Now, it having 170 HP, it's a little bit on the weaker side of GXs, but it does have a generic attack and energy drive, which is a double colorless requirement, so with a single attachment you could have it ready to attack, and it does 20 damage multiplied by the number of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So with 2 energy on a Tapu Lele and no energy on your opponent's Pokemon, you're hitting for a base of 40 damage. Now, where there are some decks that are big energy decks, things like Buzzwole, for example, a Tapu Lele can hit for half of a Buzzwole's HP if they're fully suited up, because 3 energy on a Buzzwole plus 2 on Lele means that it's hitting for 100. So sometimes you might need to just put, say, a Tapu Lele in the active, attach a Double Colorless, which lets you hit for 100 on a Bulu, or on a Buzzwole, or on anything that you're really putting 3 energy on, and then, say, promote a Zoroark afterwards to be able to take the kill, whether Tapu Lele itself was knocked out or not. Now, with the Pokemon covered, we're going to go ahead and dive into our trainers. Now, where this is a very ability-heavy deck with our trade ability, our versatile, our slice-off, etc., even our Wonder Tags, we have a current count of 2 of Field Blower, because Garbodor can still sometimes be a problem, and being able to take off, say, things like your opponent's Float Stones, or being able to get rid of a Parallel City that's restricting your bench space, is going to be something that's going to be very applicable for this deck. Now, if your particular meta is extremely heavy on things like Garbodor and Parallel Cities, you might want to up the count of this to 3, but that's going to be something that you'll determine on your side. Now, next up we have a 1 of Multi-Switch, which allows us to move an energy from one of our benched Pokemon to our active Pokemon. Now, right now with our Alolan Exeggutors, both of them, the GX and the regular, require 3 energy discards to be able to retreat out of the active. Now we are running 2 of Float Stones in the deck, so sometimes we just attach a Float Stone to our Exeggutor and retreat, but we want to be able to move the energy from that Exeggutor back up to our now active Pokemon, and that's where the multi-switch comes into play. Also, with, say, having a double colorless on a Zoroark, being able to multi-switch it up to an Alolan Exeggutor GX to suddenly be able to do its regular or GX attacks can be very applicable. Next up, we have a 2 of Professor's Letter. Now, this is usually going to be used to get the 1 of Grass Energy. That's going to be the requirement for a regular Alolan Exeggutor to be able to attack. But it's also going to let us get the other energy types that we can then discard to things like Sycamore, that we can discard to our trades, etc., to get the unique basic energy type count up in our discard pile to have that Tropical Shake hit for as much damage as possible. Next, we're running a 4 of Puzzle of Time. This is pretty common across all various Zoroark variants, because there's going to be cards that you want to trade away early in the game and then be able to get back later with Puzzle of Time. Now, with these heavy trade-based decks, the overall draw supporter counter is lower. I believe this deck itself is only running 6 total draw supporters, so you want to be able to pull back any of the cards that are the 1-ofs or the 2-ofs that you might have discarded early in the game to just get card advantage and be able to use later in the game. There's also going to be times, say for example, when you use a Mew EX to knock out a Buzzwole, they knock out the Mew EX on the response, and then being able to go double puzzle, get back the Mew EX and potentially the DCE that was attached to it, put it down and immediately attack again for potential KO is going to be a very strong string of events. Next up, we're running a 1 of Rescue Stretcher. We do want to be able to buy back our Alolan Exeggutor, where we are only running it as a 2 of or a 1 of for the GX. Being able to buy it back after a KO is going to be very applicable, or just being able to shuffle the 3 from our discard back into our deck, where we might want to put in, say, a couple Exeggutors or a couple Executes plus Exeggutor or a mix of Zoroarks, etc., that we want to be able to shuffle back into the deck. Now, the primary purpose of running this over, say, a Super Rod, for example, is the ability to get one Pokemon directly back to hand, but with this particular deck, we don't want to be able to get the energy back in the deck. We want to have it in the discard because we want it to apply towards the Tropical Shake attack. Next up, we're running the 4 of Ultra Ball. This is common across pretty much every deck in Standard right now, because Ultra Ball lets you pitch 2 other cards with it to tutor any Pokemon out of your deck and put it in your hand. So you'll be able to search for any Pokemon, get it immediately. This is going to be able to let you get, say, a Lele on your first turn to go for a Bridget to set up your bench. It'll let you go for your evolutions, it'll let you go for any of your basics that you might need, but it's just an overall great utility card. There's a reason why it's pretty much always legal and standard, and it's to give you the consistency to make sure that you can get your Pokemon out and that you're not going to get immediately dunked by your opponent. That brings us now into our supporters before we finish up with our tools and energy. We're running a 2 of Acerola to be able to put any damaged Pokemon back into our hand, including all cards attached to it. Now, this can be great for us to be able to, say, shift around an Alolan Exeggutor. If we have just one Exeggutor, it's damaged but has an energy on it, we have a benched Execute, we can just Acerola the damaged Exeggutor back in hand, evolve the Execute, which we could promote into our active, attach our energy, and be ready to attack again. So it makes our one prize attacker all the harder to kill, particularly where most decks are going to have to 2-shot it. Next up, we're running a 2 of Bridget, and this is just to allow us to have the consistency on setup. We want to be able to get a Bridget turn 1 if at all possible, to be able to get a couple of Zoroarks, maybe an Execute, etc. down, so we can really kind of start pressuring our opponent to be ready to evolve on our second turn. Now, if we draw a second Bridget later on in the game, or say we get our setup without ever having a Bridget in hand to begin with, we're able to just trade them away, so it's still going to be a great card for us to have overall. It's either easy trade fodder, or it's going to be something that's going to let us set up the way that we need. Next, we have 2 of Guzma, and that's just the ability to switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active and do the same on your side. Sometimes you want to force one of your damaged Pokemon out of the active, put your secondary attacker up, and have them ready to go. Sometimes you want to be able to take up your opponent's damaged Pokemon that they retreated during their previous turn to prevent a potential knockout, so you still want to be able to get that knockout. That's where Guzma comes in. Most of you have already obviously played with this card and know exactly how good it can be. Now we have our draw supporters, which are going to be a 2 of Cynthia, which lets you shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 6 cards. 2 of N, which both players shuffle their hand into their deck, then draw cards equal to their remaining prize cards. And then a 2 of Sycamore, which just lets you discard your hand and just straight draw 7. So these 3 draw supporters are going to be strong overall. With N, we don't usually have to worry so much about ending ourselves down, where we do have that Zoroark trade ability. If we can at least get one trade off, we're going to start to be able to refill our hand pretty quickly and easily, and being able to end our opponent down to a low amount of cards in their hand, particularly if they get ahead, is going to be a very strong effect. Sometimes you just want the straight draw power without losing any of the cards in your hand, and that's where Cynthia comes into play. And sometimes you want just raw card draw, and you don't give a care about any of the cards in your hand, and that's when Sycamore itself will come out. Next, we have our 2 different Pokemon tools that we'll be using in this deck, which is going to be a 2 of Choice Band for the added damage against our opponent's active GXs and EXs, which is generally most of the format, given the current format shakedown and meta overall. And we're running a 2 of Floatstone, which is just going to give us that free retreat ability. With a lot of our Pokemon having 2 or 3 retreat costs, being able to retreat them for free can be extremely applicable. Finally, we get down into our energy. You'll see that we have a 4 of a double colorless energy, where it does allow us to use both our Lele attack and our Riotous Beating with either Zoroark or Mew. If it's copying Riotous Beating with a single energy attachment, is obviously extremely strong, and it lets us suit up, say, our Exeggutor GX to be able to attack with just 3 attachments rather than 4. Now with our individual energies, we're running a 3 of Grass Energy, so we can still have the consistency of being able to do any of the Exeggutor attacks, either GX or regular. And then we're running a 1 of Darkness, a 1 of Fairy, a 1 of Fighting, and a 1 of Metal Energy paired off with the 1 of Psychic. So these individual energies are for the ability to, say, do a versatile attack off of Mew, but primarily we're looking to discard anything besides our grass energy to be able to actually set this up and have our Pokemon ready to go. And I'll ignore that trade request that someone just sent me. I do apologize for that little pop-up. But that actually brings us to the end of our deck tech there for today. So I do hope you enjoyed. We'll be putting up a poll later this week, as we have in the past previous weeks, to see what deck you'd like to see teched next. We'll be coming to you with games this week. I know they've been a little sporadic over the past couple due to some recording issues that we've had, but I believe we've got those sorted out, so we should be able to get those up for you relatively quickly and on time. And as always, we greatly appreciate your viewership, and I look forward to you watching our next videos as well. Thank you again, and this is Adam with 8 Badge Gaming signing off.